everyone, just wanted to do a quick video today for you. I've had lots and lots of questions on how I put together flower clusters. Now I've got a fleurs show on Thursday at 12 p.m. on Create and Craft, so that's going to be making the flowers, but for those of you who use ready-made flowers like these, sometimes putting them together and balancing them can be a little bit tricky no matter how gorgeous your flowers are. So I'm just going to show you how I do it. Now there's probably lots of other people who do it different ways, but this is the way I use. So what I do is when I've got a project, I will always put my flowers together on a piece of cardstock. So this means that if I get anything wrong in the wrong position, I can pull it off without damaging my project underneath. So I start with a piece of cardstock, just cut quite small. And I always use hot glue as well to hold most flowers down. Obviously, if you've got lots and lots of time, you can use something like your silicone glue, for example, instead. I start, first of all, with large flowers. Then I have medium, small flowers, so things like tiny paper roses. I have my sprays, so these are the little bits that will, like the baby's breath here, and such, that will be poking out. And then lastly, I have my leaves as well. So that's a combination of everything that I will use in one flower cluster. But I'll always start in the middle and work my way out. Now, obviously, if I need something really long, I'll cut a really long strip. If I need it really quite small and I'm only going to have 3 flowers on, for example, it'll be a smaller one. So I'll start in the middle with a large flower. I've got no idea what colours I'm doing this for, what project, so we'll just take any large flower, so nice bright yellow. I would say it's spring-like, but it's really not here today. The weather's a bit miserable. But I'll pop that with my glue down in the middle. So usually, because the larger flowers are more money, I will only stick with one large flower in any cluster unless it's a really long cluster going around an aperture or something, covering quite a lot of my card. So I'll start with one large one. That's like my statement piece. And I've just glued it down in the middle. I've not completely flattened it because I like to tuck flowers underneath as well. Then I'll go to my middle ones. So we'll make this quite a bright cluster. So I'm going to take a bright pink here and put this one next to it. But again, like I say, I'm just tucking it underneath those petals. Then I'll come to this side. So again, medium. Take another pink. This is a paler pink, but that's fine because we'll balance it in a moment. So same colour, different shade of it there. There you go, tucked under again. If you've got something like we've got beautiful stamen in this flower, I like to have that on show. I don't like to cover that up because I think that's really pretty. That's what it makes it look lifelike. On the ends, well, I'll go to my smaller flowers now because I had quite a bright pink here. I'll take quite a bright pink this side. I'll just trim the stems off. Now I trim them really quite close. There we go. So just a few millimetres there really to hold it together. And I'll pop this under there. Don't worry about the white cardstock showing. And this side I'm going to take a paler one, could even be a white, something like this on the other end. Again, a bit of glue, don't want those cobwebby bits, and pop that in there. And if you are doing this on a piece of card, just make sure, keep lifting your cardstock up, making sure that that's not actually sticking to your worktop. Okay, so that's going to be my flowers, and if you wanted to, you could go in with some smaller ones and add them in to the gaps there on the edges, perhaps, or right on the ends. But I don't think I need to do that because I'm going to add some foliage and some leaves. So this one I'll add, I've got this baby's breath. This is just plastic. A lot of these are plastic rather than paper, but I'm just going to, I'll have to cut that, some cut, some pull apart, and just tuck these in. So tiny little flowers. Now these are not going to go right on the ends. I'm going to tuck them in the side, sort of near that medium sized flower. And then again, I'm now making this balanced by putting this one in the opposite corner almost here. So in there. And then lastly, my leaves. Now, with leaves, there's so many different shades and shapes of leaves. Obviously, if I was just doing roses, I wouldn't be putting fern leaves. But if I'm doing sort of these nice tropical looking flowers, then fern leaf would look more appropriate. So I do bear that in mind. I'm thinking these leaves would be okay, right sort of green, not a bad size. So you don't want anything that's too overwhelming in size either with the leaves for your flowers. If you've got lots of tiny little roses, a couple of large leaves will look out of place. Now I'm going to pop these in under here somewhere in between these last two. So put the glue on there and slot that, the end of that leaf in. Okay, so it's not sticking directly out the end, but it's just coming out to the side. Now again, I'm going to come opposite, so I'm going to come here. This balances it. If I was going around an aperture, I would bring it here to give that shape. But this wants to be almost square in a line, so I'm going to bring this leaf here. And I can see I've got a piece of white card here, so I'm going to just pop it under this flower. Maybe that you need to lift your flower back up again, even after it's glued down a bit, or trim your leaf down. Just squeeze a bit of glue in there. Pop that in there. Lovely. So there's one flower cluster that I will use on a project at a later date. You never know, you might see that one on a show this week, because I think I'm there quite a lot Thursday and Friday. So when it comes to colour, then I like to have a pop of colour in my flowers to make them stand out. So if I just pop that one to the side and bring this card in. So if I was going for putting some flowers on this card, now it's all quite muted tones. As you can see, they're all quite neutral tones, beiges and pale greens and such. Now to get the shape around this, I would actually trim my cardstock very roughly in that shape. So very, very roughly there. Okay, so then when I put that on my card, obviously everything will overlap that white cardstock, but that will be about the right shape. Now I'm going to start again in the middle. That's quite a nice one, that will match. But I also want to bring in something that's a little bit bolder. So I think maybe actually I might get the brightness. So the contrast is going to be in these, which I will have curving round. So I can position them now and then put the flowers on the top. So I'll just do that, being very careful to make sure I'm gluing to my cardstock and not my card. So I think the darker pink in this is what's going to make these stand out more, and I can shape them around the curve. Oops, stay there. That way, there we go. And again with this one. Let's just make sure that's in the right position to shape up there, okay. And just making sure they're sticking where they should be. There we go, yeah, so just on the cardstock there. So now I need to bring in something in the middle. I could just go with whites. I think I want to go with, I'm making this up as I go along. That's a bit too bright, a bit too dark. Oh, that colour's nice. Let's go with that colour. Really gorgeous aqua colour. So I'm just lifting up the top layers of these petals, but not the bottom one. So it's semi-hidden under that large flower. Then I need to go medium size here. Don't want to do exactly the same flowers. I think if you've got too much balance, if it's repeated or too symmetrical rather, I think it won't look like a real floral cluster. So pop that one there. There we go. I think that's okay actually. And as you can see now, you can't see that white cardstock really at all. And that sits on there. That colour is a bit bright. All of those colours are a bit brighter than I'd usually use, but yeah, happy with that. So that's, just noticed I haven't put any leaves on there. You could go and put leaves in. I don't think I will with this one. I think that would make it too big. if I was to, I'd put some muted leaves like this, and I'd probably just tuck them under. Let's see, maybe I'll just place these, just tuck them under between the largest and the smaller flowers there. Yeah, I think I'd do that if I was going to add leaves. There we go. So that's how I put my flower clusters together. So it's working from the middle out, largest down to the smallest, and adding in the foliage as well as we go. So not too complicated. Hopefully you'll get a little bit more confidence in putting your clusters together, and we can see them on some beautiful projects. Okay, see you soon. Bye.